You know how some horror movies claim to be based on a true story? Well, today we're going to dive into the chilling real-life case that inspired the movie When the Lights Went Out. This is the story of the Black Monk of Pontefract, and it's considered one of the most violent and well-documented hauntings in English history. So, let's get into it. And at the absolute heart of this whole thing was a young girl, Diane Pritchard. This quote from her, it just sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? It perfectly captures what her family went through. It's one thing to hear things that go bump in the night, but to constantly feel a pair of unseen eyes on you, that's a whole different level of terror. All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the 1970s. The Pritchard family, that's Joe, Jean, and their daughter Diane, move into what they believe is their absolute dream home, number 30 East Drive in Pontefract, England. They had no idea the house was already occupied. I mean, on the surface, it was perfect. Great neighborhood, lots of space, a fresh start. But they were about to find out, in the most terrifying way possible, that their new beginning was actually the start of a living nightmare. Something was already there, and it was waiting. So how did it all begin? Well, like a lot of these stories, it didn't kick off with a full-blown apparition. It started small, subtle, just whispers in the walls, really. The kind of strange little noises that are super easy to just brush off. It started with Diane. One night, she tells her mom she heard two really clear knocks coming from inside her bedroom wall. Jean just kind of laughed it off, doing what any parent would do. Oh, honey, it's just the wind, or it's a new house, it's just settling. But you have to wonder if, even as she said it, a tiny part of her felt that something was off. Well, that tiny part of her would have been right, because things escalated, and they escalated fast. Those little knocks turned into the sound of heavy footsteps, just pounding up and down the stairs when no one was there. Then, things started moving by themselves. A teapot levitating in the kitchen, massive cupboards shaking violently. And get this, a bizarre green foam started oozing from the faucets. That feeling of being watched? Yeah, it wasn't just Diane anymore. The entire family felt it. And this is where the story shifts from just creepy to downright dangerous. This wasn't about spooky noises anymore. Whatever was in that house became openly hostile, and it seemed to focus all of its negative energy on one person, young Diane. Joe and Jean were jolted awake one night by Diane's absolutely terrified screams. They find her hysterical, crying, insisting that someone was in her room. Joe goes in to check, finds nothing, but then, as they're all standing in the hall, slam! Diane's bedroom door slams shut with unbelievable force. No draft, no open window. The whole "it's just a coincidence" theory was getting pretty hard to believe. But the real horror hadn't even shown itself yet. A short time later, Diane's in her room and she hears this slow, creaking sound. It's the old brass lock on her wardrobe, turning all by itself. When she looks up toward her door, she sees it. A tall figure, completely cloaked in black, just standing there. The shock was so immense, she fainted right on the spot. Her parents found her unconscious, and when she woke up, she hysterically told them, "It will kill me." Now, if you're thinking this could have been a teenager's overactive imagination, think again. Because Jean, her mother, later saw a horrifying vision herself. In the dead of night, she saw a dark, robed figure dragging what looked like a small child down the hallway. That was it. Their worst fears were confirmed. This thing was real, and it was visible. At their wits' end, the Pritchards finally called in paranormal investigators, and they figured it out pretty quickly. This wasn't just some residual energy or an echo of the past. Nope. They were dealing with an intelligent and extremely dangerous entity. The investigators labeled it a poltergeist. You've probably heard the term. It's German for noisy ghost. And they're known for exactly this kind of thing: physical disturbances, throwing objects, making a ton of noise. And here's the really interesting part. Poltergeist activity often centers around a single person, usually an adolescent. In this house, all signs pointed straight to Diane. As the investigation was going on, another huge piece of the puzzle fell into their laps. The neighbors, who had been pretty quiet about everything, finally came forward. They shared a dark piece of local history, a story that was tied directly to the land their house was built on. And this story was chilling. Centuries ago, a monastery stood on that very spot. And according to the legend, a monk there committed a truly awful crime. As punishment, he was condemned to starve to death. The story goes that his vengeful spirit never left, just lingering on the land, filled with rage. They called him the Black Monk. And suddenly, Diane's vision of a tall figure in a black robe made horrifying, perfect sense. So now they had a name for their tormentor. The family turned to what they saw as their absolute last resort. They called in a priest to perform a cleansing of the house, hoping they could finally get rid of this thing for good. The second the priest started to pray, the whole atmosphere in the house just shifted. The air got thick, heavy, and the temperature absolutely plummeted. That's a classic sign, by the way. It's said that a powerful entity will draw energy from its surroundings to manifest and to fight back. And oh, did it fight back? The more the priest prayed, the more chaotic it got. A storm of violent banging just erupted through the house, like an invisible battering ram was trying to smash its way through the walls. The spirit was throwing an absolute tantrum. Then came the climax. In the middle of all that chaos, Diane's eyes snapped open, but it wasn't her voice that came out. A deep, guttural, completely unnatural voice spoke through her, and it declared for everyone to hear, "He belongs here," and the room fell completely silent. After that terrifying moment, the violent activity did stop. The banging faded, objects stayed put. A really eerie calm fell over the house. But the family knew they could feel it. The entity hadn't left. It was still there, lurking in the shadows, just quiet. And this brings us right to the debate that still goes on today. Skeptics look at this and say, could it have been a case of shared psychological stress, a family delusion brought on by the pressure of it all? Or was it exactly what it seemed to be, the tangible, violent haunting by the vengeful spirit of the Black Monk? The Pritchard family, understandably, couldn't live there anymore, and they moved out. But the story of 30 East Drive was far from over. To this day, the house is one of England's most infamous haunted locations. People who visit now report the very same things: unexplained knocks, seeing shadows, and feeling those sudden bone-chilling cold spots. The story of the Black Monk just leaves you with this deep sense of unease. It's a pretty stark reminder that some dark histories just refuse to be buried, and some places never really let go of the past. So, the final question is, what do you believe really happened at 30 East Drive?